All right, y'all. Welcome back. We're here. I'm queer. Listen, we're going to be reacting to a basketball video today. If you guys know my content, you know that I make content on basketball, I make content on YouTube, TikTok, Clout Chasers. Um, Today will be basketball because I promised this video. As you can see, my streaming setup's a little different. That's because I'm at a hotel with my wife to celebrate her birthday. But a promise is a promise, so I will keep mine and I will upload this. It is late as fuck right now, but I'm gonna make sure that I have full energy. I got my drink. We're gonna do this shit, okay? So, um, by all transparency, I want people to know I do have a couple stats pulled up. I do have a couple things of my own pulled up, so I'm ready to go. This will be a genuine reaction. I have not watched this yet, but but I will be giving my full analysis as far as it goes because it seems like you guys wanted me to react to this. So let me go ahead and get this shit started. If you like my content, please like, comment, subscribe. It's me hard, and I love it. Let's continue. Let's start.
LeBron era isn't over yet. How does he compare Michael Jordan?
Michael is the greatest player ever. If Michael played in this era, he'll average 50.
Close
Right,
enough
right.
between Michael and anyone else to
No.
really have the conversation. Let's be honest about it.
My, I think one of the issues I have when it comes to like the Jordan debate is if Michael was in this era, he would average 50. Now, maybe the narrator will go over why he feels this way. I'm not saying he feels this way, but why people may feel this way. I just don't understand why people think that when it comes to the league, a lot of people say the defense is lacking. Did we think that the defense is lacking or the skill is just better? Like this, like the players are just more skilled. Like the amount of three pointers that Larry Bird made, his 3-point percentage, it would make him, if last time I checked, I think it would make him like 50th as far as like the current NBA. Malik Beasley would be ahead of him as far as like 3-point percentage. And we're not talking like Jokic numbers where he only takes like two threes a game. We're talking like, multiple 3-pointers a game. Malik Beasley would be ahead of him as far as 3-point percentage goes. Now, I'm not saying that Malik Beasley is a better player than Larry Bird. All I'm saying is that the players nowadays are a lot more skilled than they were back in the day, which is fair. Like, what do we expect that? The evolution of the game is just more. So to assume that Michael Jordan, as great as he was, can just come into this league and just average 50, I don't know about that because we're acting like there's no defense played, which is not true. But that's just my first criticism off rip. Let's continue.
But it's just not all about rings. You look at LeBron, a 13-time first-team All-NBA player, a 17-time All-NBA player, about to be a 20-time All-Star game starts. All of it in its totality. That's why I have LeBron. It's a two-man race for me. It's Jordan and LeBron, and I'm in Team LeBron.
To rank these legendary basketball players from best to worst. LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Kobe Bryant.
I'm the best, Michael second best, LeBron.
You can only choose one. LeBron, Mike, Kobe.
I took Jordan.
You took Jordan?
I'm never going against Jordan.
Greatest of all time, Jalen?
Airness.
Greatest of all time?
Unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much.
Still has a way to go clearly to pass. Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, 11 championships, 13 years. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
The captain.
And my heart just won't let him pass Magic just yet.
Does LeBron have to do something, or can he do something where you would go, now I would look at him as the best player?
No, I think for me it's MJ all day long.
Okay, here's my. There's a little bit of, like I said, just a little bit of bias here towards Jordan, which is absolutely fine. Um, he has an opinion. This narrator probably has an opinion that Jordan is better, and that's fair. That's his opinion. I'm going to do my best to try to dismantle that opinion. One thing I want to point out first and foremost is like this is a good job priming your audience. I'm just going to start off by saying this narrator, whoever he is, very smart in priming your audience. What do you mean by priming your audience? Okay, let's say that I'm trying to come across to you and say, I think that Coke is better than Pepsi. Um, but I'm not biased. I'm going to show you many ways why Coke is better than Pepsi, but they're both great. So let's go ahead and look at it. So here is 15 reasons why Coke is great. Here's like two reasons why Pepsi is good. right? Like in the beginning of this video, we showed like a bunch of people saying Jordan was great and a couple people saying that LeBron was good. So it's good priming your audience to start believing one certain way. But I can go ahead myself and find a bunch of greats like Isaiah Thomas, Oscar Robertson, who feel that LeBron James is in a league of his own. I can find a bunch of current players like Draymond Green, like Al Horford. God, I lost his name for a minute. Al Horford, Jeff T, who say LeBron James is one of the greatest to ever play. I can do this game as well. But I'm not going to try to back my argument by going off the back of someone else's. If I'm going to give you an argument why I feel like someone is better or someone is not, I'm going to tell you why I feel that way. I don't want you to feel like I'm just jumping the wagon of someone else's argument to feel that way. So that's just my opinion off rip. He did a good job priming the audience to feel like, hey, Jordan is the great. But I just don't like that tactic. I feel like there might be a lot of bias in this video, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and keep going.
17 seconds from game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan open. Chicago with the lead.
Misses. Rebound taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry. Back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time. That's what I felt.
Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. LeBron versus Mike. A question that you just can't escape if you follow sports, no matter how hard you try. A question that's broken many friendships apart. Do you ever just see some lousy GOAT debate on something like ESPN and just wonder, I wish someone could actually make a solid GOAT debate video? Well, my goal with this video is to provide you with one of, if not the best GOAT debate video you'll ever watch on the internet. From going over the basics to diving deep into some of the most finite and minuscule.
I want to apologize up front. I don't know why it kept switching tabs. Let me go ahead and just separate these tabs so they're by themselves. What the hell? Okay, let's get rid of that. Separated, so that's by itself. Okay, we're good to go. But while we're paused, let me go ahead and give quick analysis real quick. Just in case anybody is wondering, yes, there's a little bit of hiccups, like I said. I'm recording from my laptop. It's going to be a little bit of hiccups. Bear with me. I said I would have this video out on my channel. I'm going to make sure it is. Now, as far as Jordan goes, like the GOAT debate, the reason I have LeBron ahead of Jordan is because Jordan was one of the greatest players ever to be on one of the greatest teams ever, to be part of one of the greatest systems ever, by one of the greatest coaches ever. So at the end of the day, I think he's great and I think he's amazing. But context is going to matter. Like, look at the pieces that Jordan had. Okay. He had John Paxson, one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time, percentage wise. One of the greatest three-point shooters of that time, for sure. When he didn't have that, who did he end up having? Steve Kerr, percentage wise, one of the great three-point shooters, especially of that time. He had Tony Kukoc, a European legend, one of the greatest European players of all time. He had Scottie Pippen, one of the greatest two-way players of all time. He had Horace Grant, one of the greatest glass cleaners of all time. And then when he didn't have Horace Grant, he had Dennis Rodman, again, one of the greatest glass cleaners of all time. He had Phil Jackson, one of the greatest coaches of all time. You see what I mean? Now I know we can play this game with LeBron as well. Well, LeBron had D Wade and LeBron has Spoelstra, but at the end of the day, Jordan was part of a very cohesive, consistent system that he greatly benefited from. I'm not going to sit here and say that he wasn't a main component of that system running. Sure, he was, but the context of this is going to greatly matter. Um, One of the things that I hope is brought up is, like I said, when we look into certain details of certain things, there's a reason that I have a couple stats and things pulled up already. I want to see if this narrator brings up context, especially for things like what's a good example that might be dissected in this video? Well, he said he's going to talk about stats. So let's talk about stats. One of the stats that I hope is brought up is how many points did it take? How many shots did it take for LeBron to pass Jordan? because he passed Michael Jordan on the all-time scoring list. It took him, like, if I'm not mistaken, a couple hundred more games to pass Jordan, right? And also took him a couple hundred more games to pass Jordan as far as field goals made. But when you look at field goals made and you look at the all-time scoring list, even though it took him a couple hundred more games, LeBron shot upwards of 1,200 shots less. 1,200 shots less. And if we go ahead and pull up, as I have it here, this, it took him 324 fewer field goal attempts to pass Jordan as far as field goal attempts made. That's important. That's important context because even though LeBron played more games in order to pass Jordan in point total, LeBron shot way less shots in order to pass Jordan. So that means he was efficient at a high level. That's just one stat, though. Not gonna say and ramble forever, but I just feel like that needs to be brought up. That needs to be talked about. But we'll see. Let's get this started.
Details of the discussion. Sit back and relax. Right now, we're in one of the most special times in the GOAT debate's history. Never in NBA history has the race for the title of the greatest NBA player ever been so close between two legends. The very first GOAT of the NBA was George Mikan on the Minneapolis Lakers, who won 5 championships with the Lakers in the late 40s and early 50s, but his reign as the GOAT quickly ended as the likes of Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain quickly shifted the narrative. After the 60s, it was either Bill Russell's 11 rings or Wilt Chamberlain's unbreakable stats and records. However, most people sided with Bill. Some people even threw Oscar Robertson into the GOAT debate when ring culture and accolades weren't as prevalent in the debate. After the 70s, many people today would just assume Kareem would be the next man in line. But you have to remember, at the time, rings and awards weren't as prevalent in the GOAT debate. People valued entertainment and the eye test a lot more. Kareem really didn't get a say in the conversation until after his playing days were over. After the stars of the 60s, the next two men to take the spotlight of the GOAT debate were Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, who held it for the majority of the 80s, but that shifted very quick as Michael Jordan quickly swooped in and completely mesmerized our brains. After Jordan won his first three-peat, he was pretty much anointed as the GOAT. Despite players like Kareem, Russell, and even Wilt Chamberlain having better basketball resumes at the time, the excitement of MJ took over people's minds. And with MJ's second three-peat, there was no doubt in people's minds. MJ stood as the uncontested greatest player of all time for a pretty long while. Many players tried to overthrow Air Jordan, but they just couldn't do it. Well, except one player. LeBron James in 2016 created a permanent dent in the GOAT debate. Prior to this year, we had never seen a player beat a dynasty, the greatest team of all time in the NBA Finals. With LeBron coming back 3-1 against the Warriors in 2016, this captured the hearts of many younger fans. After that, LeBron won yet another championship and had sustained longevity that we simply thought was impossible. Never in the history of the NBA has the GOAT debate between the persistent and undeniable longevity of LeBron versus the flair and pure dominance that MJ had in a shorter stint. Last year, in April of 2024, The Atlantic put out a poll for NBA players to answer their opinions on the GOAT debate, and the results were shocking. For the first time in what seems like forever, Michael Jordan was not the majority pick in the GOAT debate anymore. In 2024, 49% of people picked Michael Jordan, 37% of players picked LeBron, 9% of players picked Kobe, and the remaining 5% of players picked someone else. Now, these results don't seem that close until you look at the results of the exact same poll taken just 6 years ago in 2019, where Michael Jordan, instead of just having 49% of the votes, had 73% of votes. LeBron in 2019 was closer to Kobe in the GOAT debate than Jordan. The pedestal that fans held Michael Jordan on for decades seems like it shattered. So what happened in this 5-year gap? Was it LeBron's 4th ring, breaking Kareem's all-time scoring record, the unprecedented longevity, or maybe all the above? What's the reality of the GOAT debate in 2025 and beyond?
Alright. Let's see what arguments are being made. Let's start with stats.
To get things started here, let's get the basic stats out of the way. When taking a look at the 5 main stats, at first glance, you might think LeBron James is the obvious pick for this category. He leads Michael Jordan in 4 of the 5 main stats, that being points, rebounds, assists, and blocks. LeBron has about 8,000 more points than Jordan, 4,000 more rebounds, 5,000 more assists, and about 200 more blocks. But I think the totals categories are a bit deceiving. By this logic, would you consider Moses Malone a better scorer than James Harden? Would you consider Tim Duncan better at getting buckets than Allen Iverson or Steph Curry? Would you consider Buck Williams a better rebounder than Dennis Rodman? Would you consider Andre Miller a better passer than Rajon Rondo? There are 38 players ahead of Larry Bird in the all-time scoring list. You can't sit here and tell me with a straight face that 38 basketball players in NBA history could score the ball better than Larry Bird. I think...
Okay. I think he's... Oh, man. I'm gonna have to pull my dick out and put it on the table, ain't I? Listen, I think he's doing exactly what I said was going to happen here towards the beginning, and that's lacking context. Um, are there 38 better players than Larry Bird as far as scoring the bucket? Scoring a bucket? No, maybe. Actually, I don't know. I want to see the list. I want to see the list. I want to see the list now. I want to see the list. All-time leading scorers list. Now we're deep diving because now I'm starting to get a little pissed off. Because listen, um, this is kind of disingenuous, right? You're trying to say that just because someone has more numbers doesn't mean that they are better. True, but people love to use that argument, the more jumper argument, as far as championships go, and I feel like you're gonna bring that up, but nonetheless, that's okay. That's okay. Let's talk about the points. You're generally framing this, okay? You're making it seem like LeBron averaged like 10 points per game for 40 seasons in order to get the 40,000 points, but it's just not true. LeBron is more efficient than Jordan. That's just point blank, period. From three, from two, no matter what you want to talk about, he is more efficient. Jordan has the edge on him on free throws. That is true. We can go ahead and look at statistics. I'm going all over the place because that pissed me off a little bit. We can look at let me go ahead and close this so it stops. I'll do that later. Thank you for popping up for me. We can go ahead and look at statistics, right? 3-point percentage. Jordan for career, 32% from the three. Field goal percentage. Jordan for career, 49% from field goal. From field goal. 3-point percentage, 35% for LeBron's career, 50% from um field goal percentage. LeBron is more efficient from the field. LeBron is more efficient from 3-point. LeBron, like I said earlier, shot 300 less shots in order to reach the amount of field goals made that Jordan made. LeBron shot damn near 1,200 shots less in order to pass Jordan on all-time scoring lists. So I don't like how this is being framed. Like, oh, would you consider like all these players better than Larry? Would you consider all these players better than Steph? It's like, okay, but how long did it take to get their buckets and how efficient were they? That's the question. Because if they were efficient, maybe. If they weren't, then maybe not. But I want to look at the list, right? Enough yak. Let's look at the list. So we got Gary Payton ahead of him, Damian Lillard. Let's just go one at a time. Is Gary Payton a better bucket getter than Larry Bird? I wouldn't say so. So that's one. Damian Lillard. Hot take. I think Damian Lillard for sure is a better bucket getter than Larry Bird. Fight me on that. Clyde Drexler. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I can see either or, but to bite the bullet, I'd take Clyde. Chris Paul. I'd take Larry, so that's two. Elgin Baylor, undecided. So we'll say neutral. We'll give it to Larry just because I'm undecided. That's three. Dwayne Wade, I'm taking Dwayne. Adrian Dantley, I'm taking Larry, so that's four. Robert Parrish, mm, I'll take Larry. I'll take Larry. Charles Barkley, I'll take Charles. I'll take AI. DeMar DeRozan, I'm taking DeMar. Come on. DeMar would be a monster in the 90s. I'm just saying. His style of play was born for the 90s. He was just born in the wrong generation. Steph Curry, I'm taking Steph. Ray Allen, I'm taking Ray. Patrick Ewing, that's a tough one too. Mm, I'm gonna take Patrick. I'm gonna take Patrick, but I wouldn't be mad if people said Larry. Jerry West. I have not watched enough Jerry West ball to have a strong opinion on that, so I'm just going to give it to Larry Bird just because I'm simply unknowing. Alex English, Larry Bird, Vince Carter, taking Vince, Russell Westbrook, I'm taking Russell, Kevin Garnett, I'm taking Kevin, John Houtlevic, I'll take Larry. Paul Pierce, I'm taking Paul. Tim Duncan, I'm taking Timmy. I don't give a fuck. I'm taking Timmy. Dominique Wilkins, I'm taking Dom. Oscar Robinson, taking Oscar. James Harden, taking James. Akeem, taking Akeem. Alvin Hayes. Um, as for Alvin and Moses, I'll give that to uh Larry. Carmelo, obviously taking Carmelo. Shaq, taking Shaq. Kevin, Wilt, Dirk, Michael, Kobe, Carl. All these players I'm taking ahead of Larry as far as getting a bucket. So even if you want to do the nitty gritty, right? Larry Bird is sitting at 40. You're asking me, is there 39 players better than Larry Bird as far as getting a bucket? Sure, maybe not. But even the ones that people may fight me on, as far as my personal opinion goes, okay, we can add like two more to my total. We got eight. We got eight players that Larry Bird might be better than as far as getting a bucket. That's why that saying is coming off disingenuous because you're bringing up the name Larry Bird and then you're saying, are you sitting here telling me that there's 39 players that you think can get a bucket better than Larry Bird? Um, I mean, maybe not 39, but 31, 31 for sure, 31. So yeah, I don't. And again, I added two because I know there was a couple on here that some of you may fight me on. I added two. If we take away two, okay. So not 39, but maybe 33. But okay. I'm sorry. This is ooh. This is gonna be a fun one, guys. Let's continue.
Stat totals are a decent way of looking at who's better at, but it requires some context around it. The issue with purely looking at totals of stats is that it more shows who was able to maintain a high level of production throughout their career, not who was actually better at the skill. Of course, the longevity is an achievement on its own. Taking a look at career averages, Michael Jordan wins in scoring, steals, and blocks, while LeBron wins in rebounds and assists. When adding efficiency, LeBron takes the slight edge in field goal percentage and three-point percentage, while Jordan takes a pretty sizable gap in free throw percentage. But here's the kicker. Both players can pretty much do everything on the floor. Neither of them really had any weaknesses, at least on offense. During the end of the 1988 and 89 season, the Bulls point guard, Sam Vincent, was noticeably struggling to facilitate the Bulls offense. So what did the Bulls coach do? They put Michael Jordan at point guard for the remaining 28 games of the season, and he went on to average 30.4 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 10.7 assists. Michael Jordan also averaged 8.5 assists per game in his very first career playoff series against the Bucks, while still maintaining 29 points and 6 rebounds. He also averaged 31, 6, and 11 in the NBA Finals in 1991. On top of that, he's also had 3 playoff series where he's averaged more than 9 boards a game. So to say that Jordan was only a scorer on offense and contributed nothing else is borderline insane, but I would argue that LeBron James is the more versatile player on offense. LeBron has proven that he can be the best passer in the league if he wants to, leading the league in scoring in 2020. He also averaged north of 9 assists per game in 2018 and in the current 2024-2025 season. And let's not even get into playoff numbers. The King has 5 playoff series where he's averaged double-digit assist numbers and 17 series where he's averaged more than 10 boards. To conclude here, I would give the categories of rebounding, assists, and blocks to LeBron, while giving the categories of scoring and steals to Jordan. For any of you guys who are wondering why I gave the scoring to Jordan instead of LeBron, Michael Jordan had the highest regular season and playoff scoring averages, while maintaining very good shooting splits, especially coming from a 200-pound guard and a player that shot further away from the basket on average than LeBron. Jordan also played in a very physical era in the 80s that had next to no spacing and was still able to put up scoring numbers that only Wilt was able to overcome. He also dominated scoring during his second three-peat, which marks the beginning of the dead ball era, aka there was less possessions to score. Jordan also has the highest per 100 possession scoring average, which is about 4 more points than LeBron's. Michael Jordan also didn't have the green light to jack up the amount of threes LeBron can, especially with the Lakers, which deflates Jordan's scoring averages compared to modern day players. While LeBron got a taste of the dead ball era and a lack of
Okay, are we gonna ignore the fact that Jordan was absolutely atrocious from three? Even if he didn't chuck up as many threes as LeBron chucked up, LeBron has a better 3-point shooting percentage than Jordan. Jordan's shooting percentage from three is absolutely atrocious, but we're going to act like it wasn't?
and checking early in his career with the Cavs, how Jordan had it. Throughout most of LeBron's career, he's been lucky enough to play in the highest scoring era outside of the early 60s. He played in an era where it's never been easier to get to the rim and score, with spacing like none other, and officiating geared towards favoring offense. If you give Jordan the spacing of today with several elite three-point shooters around him, a lack of physicality, and the green light to take 6 to 10 three-pointers a game, and the ability to just foul bait until the ref's whistle stops working, I'm not joking here to where I think we could see Jordan's scoring numbers look a lot like Wilt's. If you guys are more interested...
Okay, hold on. Oh boy. My dick needs to come out. It has to. I gotta plop it on the table at this point. This is crazy. Okay, let's go back to Jordan's stats. So you're telling me if he were with a 3-point percentage of like 29%, 20, not even 20%, 18%, 23%, 37%, 38. He did not take many threes whatsoever. And that's not a detriment to Jordan. He was not a 3-point shooter. He didn't take as many threes. But you're telling me someone who, when he did take threes, was absolutely atrocious from three. I mean, he only shot like damn near 1.5, 3.6, 3.2. His highest was 3.6 a game. And it's not like his highest was 3.6 a game and he averaged 38% from three. That's when it was a 96 and 97. Like, I don't know how we can sit here and say that if you let Jordan jack up 6 to 10 threes, all of a sudden he's going to become a 3-point maestro when he was not known for that. He was not good from 3-point land. And not only that, I don't like um the fact when we're talking about like scoring in the NBA, right? Let's look. Scoring NBA over the years, points per game. Because I'm curious. I'm just curious. Curious. I want to see, is it really like a gigantic, drastic change? So when we look at scoring over the years, it has gone up 91 to 97, and then 94 in 2000, 95 in 2001, 95 in 2002, back down to 93 in 2003, 97, and it's gone up 98, 99, 100. Scoring has gone up, but are we saying that scoring has gone up because like the lack of defense? Or are we saying scoring has gone up because players are just more talented? Like, look at 3-point percentage, right? If we look at 3-point percentage, I believe Malik Beasley is better from three than Larry Bird as far as attempts and shots made. Are we saying that Malik Beasley is a better player than Larry Bird? No. But statistically speaking, Malik Beasley is a better shooter than Larry Bird. That doesn't mean that he's a better player than Larry Bird. But why is that? Is it because Larry Bird sucks? No, it's probably because as time goes on, the game evolves, skill gets better, shit gets better. So to live in this weird dynamic of like, well, if Jordan was able to do what the players are doing now, Jordan would be able to dominate now. And it's like, there's nothing to back this except emotion. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if we're going off of Jordan's 3-point stats, it doesn't back this. Oh, great. Now it's not going to load for me, huh? Okay. I guess I can't show you guys his 3-point stats anymore. Big basketball's trying to take me down. The Jordan fans hijacked my laptop. But on the real, though, if we looked at Jordan's 3-point percentage, it was atrocious. It wasn't good whatsoever. He was never good from three. Even when he took a high amount of threes, he was still not good from three. So I don't understand how we can sit here and say, well, if he took like 6 to 10 threes per game, he would be good. He would dominate. Like, this is just straight conjecture. We have nothing to prove this except emotion. It's just feeling. We just feel this way, which is fine. We can have feelings as much as we want, but we need something to back our feelings. We need facts. We need shit to show for it, not just, oh, I feel like Jordan would be great because Jordan is great. Like, that's a contradictory statement. Let's continue.
In this greatest scorers debate. I'll have my video about it linked right here where I break it down a lot more. But this video is long enough. Let's move on.
No, oh my God, that's bullshit. Why do I have to watch another one of your videos to explain your statement in this one? You're telling me that you feel Jordan would dominate today's game and he would be a scoring maestro. And even though he was absolutely atrocious from three, if he was able to shoot 6 to 10 threes, all of a sudden he becomes Steph fucking Curry. That's your opinion, but you don't have shit to back your opinion in this video. You tell me I have to go to another one of your videos? Okay, that's fine. Let's continue.
Next, let's take a look at advanced stats, which I believe paint the picture of overall production better. For those of you who aren't familiar with these stats, advanced stats are different from your traditional points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, because advanced stats attempt to show you overall on-court production effectiveness rather than narrowing it down to a singular area how normal stats do. When looking at some of the main advanced stats that Basketball Reference uses, like PER, which shows a per-minute rating of a player's overall on-court contribution, true shooting percentage, which is like field goal percentage, but it factors in threes, twos, and free throws, win shares per 48, which is an estimate of the number of wins contributed by a player if they hypothetically played the whole game, box plus minus, which gives us a number for overall impact on the floor, and value over replacement, which, like the name suggests, shows how much better a player is compared to the average NBA player. When looking at LeBron and MJ in these categories, MJ beats out James in PER, win shares per 48, box plus minus, and value over replacement. The King only takes true shooting percentage, but similar to the counting stats, these metrics are going to favor Jordan because they're averages, not accumulation stats. When we take a look at the advanced stats that are totals, not averages, LeBron takes overall win shares, offense and defensive win shares, and total value over replacement points. As you guys have noticed, a very common theme amongst the Jordan versus LeBron debate is the clash between longevity and peak performance. If MJ chose to play longer and sacrifice his legacy, would he still put up the same type of point, rebound, and assist totals that LeBron has? If LeBron chose to retire early, say after his 2020 ring or even after his 2016 ring, would this hide his declining years with the Lakers and make his peaks look that much more higher? We're still far from being done with this discussion.
Okay, what?
One of
What is this? What are we doing? What are we doing? He's he's asking questions and just letting it lay. Like, I don't understand. He's just putting shit out there and letting it lay. So I guess since he asked the question, I'll answer it. Fuck it. Let me go ahead then. So Jordan played 15 seasons, okay? I know that a lot of people like to act like he wasn't on the Wizards. That did happen. He did play there. Jordan wasn't that good when he played for the Wizards, but he did play 15 seasons. And LeBron is in year 21 or 22, 21, 22. God, he's played so long that I don't even know. I believe it's 21. LeBron James current season. Get out of my face. It's year 21 or 22? Year 22? Yeah, 22. Jesus Christ. God. Motherfucker has been playing since I've been a baby. Listen, when it comes to these two players, okay? Both great, both amazing players. But LeBron has shown slippage. He's definitely not 2018 Bron. I reacted to that video. If you guys want to see me react to that video, I'll put it at the end. But he is definitely playing at an all-star level, even at the age that he's playing at. Jordan started to decline and only receive all-star votes at the end with the Wizards because he's Jordan, right? So when we look at these two players and we say, well, if LeBron like if he cut his shit out and went out in 2020 or 2016, would his numbers favor him more? Probably, but I feel like it takes away from the argument because LeBron played, in my opinion, three separate Hall of Fame careers. I believe his stint, right, his early years from like 2003, I'll say to like 2009, 2010. I believe that can be seen as an all-star career, definitely. Hall of Fame type career, numbers he was putting up, got to the finals. Okay. The Miami Heat tenure, right there, 2010 to about 2014. Right there is another one. 2015 to about 20 now. That's another. Now we can move these time frames around. But LeBron's career frames, like all these timing, all these different frames are just every single one of them from his stints in Cleveland, where he was taking fucking Larry Hughes as his second best option to the NBA Finals, and he didn't even have him for half the damn series, and Larry Hughes was averaging 14 points per game. That was the second best option on Cleveland. Larry fucking Hughes at the age of 22. And he didn't have him for half the fucking series. All right? All the way to where he was taking the 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers to go up against the fucking Super Titans the super soldiers, the fucking Golden State Warriors, we see when he is what Jordan fans think Jordan is. That is LeBron. LeBron is the guy who, take away the Miami years, consistently the key reason the team was even there to begin with. Cleveland without LeBron, especially back in 2007-8, is not getting to the fucking finals. How do we know that? When he left, a couple years later, the team went to shit. Cleveland Cavaliers went to the finals in 2018. When he left the very next year, the team went to shit. Even Miami, when he left, the team went to shit. In all these three cases, the only thing they lost was LeBron fucking James. What did Cleveland lose when LeBron left? LeBron. If anything, they were better. From 2007 to 2010, when LeBron ended up leaving, that Cleveland team was better. Was better in 2010 than it was in 2007. Like I said, Larry Hughes was their second best player, and he averaged 14 points per game. And he didn't play half the series. And now we look at him leaving that Miami Heat team. When he left that team, they didn't lose anybody except LeBron. They didn't make the playoffs. When he left Cleveland, they didn't lose anybody except LeBron. They didn't make the playoffs. So, and you know what happened when Jordan left and retired? They almost went back to the fucking finals. They lost to the Knicks in 7 games, who went on to the finals. Was the second seed in the East. So what? I'm sorry. There's gonna be a lot of yapping in this video, so you're gonna have to bear fucking with me. But it's just so infuriating. I feel like these questions are being laid out there and being asked, but they're not being answered. And you want me to go watch your other video on why you feel like Jordan would be God, but you won't tell me in this one. Let's continue.
Central topics of discussion of this debate is the argument of peak performance versus the sustainability of great performance. The harsh truth about the GOAT debate is that there's really no objective answer. It really comes down to what you value more in a basketball player. The unmatched flame that burns harder than any other flame has, or the flame that just won't quit burning. I'm just here to shine light on the objective truth that we can judge these players off of. But was prime MJ actually better than prime LeBron though? When taking a look at the combined points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks of Jordan and LeBron over their whole careers, it looks like this. According to this formula, LeBron James' best season was his final year in Cleveland before signing with the Heat in 2010, where he had a combined stat score of 48.2. Michael Jordan has 5 individual seasons that are better than this, that being 1987, 88, 89, 1990, and 1993. But like any metric, there's flaws to it. In LeBron's best season of 2010, the league was averaging exactly 100 points with 92.7 possessions per game. In 1989, the league averaged 109.2 possessions with 100.6 possessions per game. The era you're born in plays a significant difference over the stats you put up, and most fans won't like to admit this. I don't think Wilt Chamberlain is averaging 50 points a game in today's game. By the grace of God,
Oh, oh, oh. Wait, what? Oh, holy fuck. We're only 13 minutes in, and I've been crashing out for like 30 of them. What the fuck do you mean? Why do you feel that Michael Jordan would be able to average Wilt Chamberlain numbers, but Wilt Chamberlain himself can't average them in today's game? And fuck me, bro. Fuck me sideways. What do we mean? And you just made the argument Jordan's in his season, they had more points average per game and the pace was higher, but you're telling me that Jordan would be better in today's game? I just let's keep going. Let's keep going because I'm gonna keep crashing out. I'm just gonna keep repeating myself. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Let's go.
Wilt Chamberlain happened to hit his scoring prime at the exact same time that the NBA hit its prime for high-paced and high-scoring basketball, resulting in stat lines that are simply inconceivable and that will probably never happen again in the sport's history. So in order to balance out these dips and peaks of pace of play over the league's history, I created my own system of ranking a player's season called Season Score, inspired by Jimmy Highroller. What goes into my version of Season Score is a player will be rewarded 1 point for every one stat they have of per 100 possession points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, minus every turnover they have. By the way, per 100 possession stats are are like your normal stats, but they're calculated if the player hypothetically played 100 possessions every game to normalize pace of play for different eras. They'll be rewarded 1 point for every 1 point they have of PER, win shares, box plus minus, and value over replacement. And finally, I don't think neither of these stats value defense nearly as much as they should. I'm giving
Are you fucking kidding me? DPOY, 5 points. Why, though? Why? Why? Are we gonna act like voter fatigue is not a thing? Are we gonna act like the fact that LeBron James received first team all defense votes, received 27 votes? He received the votes too. He was the best defender in the league. He received the votes, but didn't get DPOY. So he can't even get the 5 points. What is this? This is like me making a fucking triangle and being like, listen, I'm gonna give 5 points to whoever has an in-season tournament. Now you may say, oh well, Jordan never had the chance to do it. LeBron had a chance to earn DPOY and he didn't earn it. He fucking did. He was the best defender, and they gave it to Marc Gasol. Doesn't make sense to this day. This isn't one of those things where it's like, I feel like this guy deserves the MVP, but this guy got it instead. This is one of those things like, I voted for this guy. Everyone else voted for this guy. Everyone else thinks this guy's the best defender. Everyone else thinks this guy's the top when it comes to that category. Let's get the trophy to this guy. That's what happened. We voted for him. Everyone I know voted for him. Everyone I know thinks he's the best. So obviously the trophy that says he's the best is going to go to this guy over here. That's what happened. But, let's continue.
7 points for every all-defensive second team, 10 points for every all-defensive first team, and an extra 5 points for winning the Defensive Player of the Year. To give you guys an example, 2018 LeBron had per 100 possession stats of 36 points, 11 rebounds, 12 assists, 2 steals, and a block with 5.6 turnovers, which adds up to 57.4. Then adding on his advanced stats and his defensive accolades, you get a total score of 116.9. Pretty understandable. Well, I did this formula for every single season that LeBron and MJ played in the league, and it looks a little like this. As we can see, MJ still holds most of the top, with the best season between the two players coming from Jordan in 1988 at 153.3. Jordan also holds 4 of the top 5 seasons, 8 of the top 11 seasons, and 9 of the top 13 seasons. But let me ask you, do all these seasons that are slightly below what Jordan was doing for the Bulls really not matter at all? Michael Jordan might have the statistical higher peak, but what if your peak spans for decades instead of just a few seasons?
Coming to the end of the third quarter. LeBron James, a shot at history. LeBron stands alone. The NBA's all-time scoring record now belongs to LeBron James.
Moving on to the next important topic of the GOAT debate, longevity. How long a player played in the league while maintaining a high level of play is a crucial factor in this discussion. I don't even need to tell you who wins this category. Of course, it's Michael Jordan, with his unreal years with the Wizards, his per-minute efficiency combined. Nah, I'm kidding. LeBron pretty much has every longevity record in the NBA at this point. You could look up longevity in the dictionary, and a small picture of LeBron James would show up. We all know this by now, so to really illustrate this point, I'm going to attempt to find some less known stats and facts about LeBron's longevity that might just blow your mind. LeBron James is in the midst of his 22nd season in the NBA, something that only one other player in the league's history has done, that being Vince Carter. Except Vince Carter in his 22nd season had a stat line of 5 points, 2.1 rebounds, and 0.8 assists a game. LeBron James is averaging 23, 8, and 9 in year 22. As a matter of fact, there aren't any old head NBA vets throughout the league's history that even come close to LeBron this year. In their final season of year 21, Robert Parrish, Kevin Willis, Dirk Nowitzki, and Kevin Garnett easily have stat lines that are smaller than LeBron James's. Same with Kareem, Kobe, Jamal Crawford, Udonis Haslem, and Chris Paul in year 20, their last season. LeBron James, at the recording of this video, just turned 40 years old. The King officially became the 32nd player in league history to lace up as a 40-year-old or older. These are the other 31 NBA player stat lines at age 40 and above. Once again, none of them really come close to LeBron. The King's next closest opponent in the old man hoops department was Karl Malone with the Lakers, who averaged 13, 8, and 4. When looking at the phenomenal individual games while being an old head, LeBron easily dominates that. When looking at games above a 40-point game score, an advanced stat that tracks how good an individual game was, LeBron has 11 of the 14 best games from a player that's in season 15 or above. Insane. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were two generational talents that pretty much ran the league. Throughout the entirety of the 1980s decade, there was never a year where the Celtics or Lakers weren't in the NBA Finals. Bird and Magic have 8 of the 10 NBA championships from that era and are both seen as undisputed top 10 players of all time. Except LeBron James has more points than both of them combined. I'm sure you guys are familiar with LeBron's streak of 10 points or more. The streak is exactly 1,250 games long at this point, dating back all the way until January of 2007. The next closest player in LeBron's ballpark is Michael Jordan, who's about 400 games off. Did you know LeBron James has placed top 20 in scoring for his first...
Hold on.
January of 2007. The next closest player in LeBron's ballpark...
Am I tripping? Did he cut the number? Yeah, he scoring it. What? What are these two numbers? Has at least 1,523 games. He also has okay, so the streak is 1,243. Okay. Okay. He didn't do anything wrong. It's just so he has 1,520 games where he scored at least 10 points, but the streak is at 1,250. I don't know why he didn't say that. But it's okay. Let's continue.
Ballpark is Michael Jordan, who's about 400 games off. Did you know LeBron James has placed top 20 in scoring for his first 21 seasons in the NBA? The next closest player to this feat is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with 17 seasons doing this. Did you know LeBron is the youngest player at age 21 and the oldest player at age 37 to average 30 points or more in a season? LBJ is the oldest player in the league while averaging 10 plus points. Do you know who was the last player to do this? That would be John Stockton in 2003. Speaking of 2003, LeBron James scored his very first points against the Sacramento Kings on October 29th, 2003, a team who had Jabari Smith. Now fast forward about 2 decades and LeBron is playing against his son, Jabari Smith Jr. As a matter of fact, LeBron James has played against 10 father-son duos in his entire NBA career. Did you know the King has shared the...
That is absolutely insane. That is crazy. Imagine 10 players. 10 players. God, imagine you go to lace up your shoes and you're like, hey, Bron, you played my dad. What's up, nigga? That's crazy. That's impressive. That's a long ass time. That is a long ass time.
With players from the 1960s, 1970s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. No one else has done this in NBA history. Finally, to really show you his longevity and consistency throughout 22 years of NBA play, the chosen one is a member of the 40K, 10K, 10K club, and there's no one that's even close to him. Not Kareem, not Karl Malone, not Kevin Garnett, or Wilt and Oscar, or Bird and Magic, or even Michael Jordan himself. So I think it's pretty obvious that LeBron takes the cake for longevity. I think it's time to move on.
What the fuck? I think it's time we move on. Okay. Here's a little bit of critique as far as this video goes. He's laying shit out, but he's just letting it hang. He's not saying why this matters or why it shouldn't matter, why it should matter, why it shouldn't matter. I feel like there's a lot to talk about this longevity. For example, when we're talking about longevity, okay, does it matter? How impressive is it really? Do we feel like Jordan, if he played that long, didn't retire twice, and actually stayed in the league for 20 years plus, do we think that Jordan could sustain this peak? Okay. If we feel yes, what can we look at stat wise to prove this? If we feel no, what can we look at stat wise to prove that? What can we look at to show whether or not Jordan would actually be on the same level that LeBron was at? Probably not, in my opinion, because he stagnated as the years went on. He did go down, he did dip, he did regress. Most players do. LeBron's a freak of nature. That just is what it is. But if you're going to talk about, and he did this again with Pete, and he did it again with the one before, like, if we're going to talk about these things, if we want to bring it up, we have to be honest, right? We have to be honest. Hold on, I'm just looking. Are we going to talk about, okay, they're going to talk about help. I am curious about that. That's going to be an interesting one. Well, let's continue.
The next topic that's crucial to bring up when talking about the GOAT debate is awards and team success. I've decided to combine these two topics into one section of the video because championships and even finals MVPs to an extent are individual awards and team success at the same time. But anyways, first let's take a look at the trophy case of Michael Jordan. MJ, to no one's surprise, absolutely stuffs the graph with accolades on top of accolades. Air Jordan has a prime in terms of awards that no one in NBA history has been able to touch so far. In a 10-year span from 1987 to 1993 and then 1996 to 1998, Michael Jordan played near perfect basketball, winning the scoring title, all-defensive first team, all All-NBA first team and an All-Star appearance every single season while winning 5 MVPs, a Defensive Player of the Year, 6 Finals MVPs, and 6 championships. When looking at LeBron James' trophy case, it's also one of one impressive, but just in a different way that Jordan's is. LeBron James' unmatched longevity is on full display here. While LeBron doesn't quite have the championships, Finals MVPs, or Defensive Player of the Years, he holds the record by a pretty wide margin for All-NBA selections and All-Star appearances. Kevin Garnett and David Robinson are both known as some of the greatest big men to ever play the game of basketball. LeBron James has more All-NBA selections than both of them combined. The next closest player to LeBron for All-NBA selections is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. LeBron could have stopped playing after his 2020 bubble ring, and he would still have the most All-NBA selections in league history. LeBron also has the record for most All-Star appearances, also at 20. When we look at both legends' basketball resumes side to side, we notice the recurring theme of this video, sustained greatness versus peak longevity. But the question still lies, whose resume is greater? Taking a final comparison at these two, MJ has more championships 6-4, Jordan has more Finals MVPs 6-4, MJ has more MVPs 5-4, MJ has a Defensive Player of the Year that LeBron doesn't, MJ has 9 All-Defensive Team selections to LeBron's 6, Jordan has 10 scoring titles to LeBron's 1. However, LeBron James has 20 All-NBA selections to Jordan's 11, LeBron has 20 All-Star selections to Jordan's 14. To add more team success metrics to the mix, LeBron has 978 career regular season wins to MJ's 706. LeBron has more playoff wins at 182 compared to MJ's 118. However, Jordan has a higher regular season winning percentage and playoff winning percentage, 65.9 to 65.4 and 66.5 to 63.8. LeBron James has more playoff series wins, but also more playoff series losses. LeBron also has more finals appearances than MJ at 10-6. So to really conclude here, I would give the edge to MJ in both individual awards and team success. In my opinion, I think the impossibly large collection of All-NBA and All-Star selections from LeBron is super impressive, but I think awards like MVPs, Finals MVPs, and Defensive Player of the Years are more impressive, and the higher total of all defensive teams and scoring titles is just the cherry on top. Similar story with team success. While LeBron's ridiculous record of 10 finals appearances and 41 career playoff series wins is very impressive, at the end of the day, the main goal of playing basketball is to win championships, so I think Mike wins in both categories.
Okay. I'm gonna quite literally end my life right now. I don't understand. Like, we we just ignore like all forms of context when it comes to that. LeBron doesn't have a Defensive Player of the Year. Do you feel LeBron deserves a Defensive Player of the Year, or do you think Marcus Gasol should have got Defensive Player of the Year? How do you feel about the fact that LeBron received the votes for being the best defensive player? How do you feel about LeBron being all defense? First team all defense. How do you feel about LeBron being seen as the unanimous Defensive Player of the Year that year and not getting the award? And to that day, every single person from commentator to coach to player believes that LeBron should have gotten that award. Do you feel like they're wrong? If that's so, that's okay. You're allowed to feel that way, but why? Right? But why? As far as, oh, well, when it comes to winning championships, it's the angle. And that is true. You should have championships under your belt. If that is the case, why the hell is Bill Russell not your GOAT then? Because he has 11. Tell me why 6 championships from Jordan matters more than 11 championships from Russell, and why 6 championships from Jordan matters more than the finals appearances from LeBron. And you can disagree, and that's fine. But the reason I'm getting a little upset with this is because there's no explanation or context being introduced into this whatsoever. We're just throwing shit out there, letting it hang, and saying Jordan better because I feel. Like, we don't, if we're going to talk about shit like this, we have to dive into the context, the numbers, and the reasoning why. He's throwing numbers, but he's not talking about reasoning. He's throwing numbers, but he's not talking about context. What is the context of the finals losses? Can you tell me the team, the 2007 starting lineup? Can you tell me how old LeBron was? Can you tell me his second best player on the Cleveland Cavaliers that year? Can you tell me about his finals losses? I can sit here and tell you with a straight face, the 2011 finals, he should have played better. He didn't play better. He played bad. He lost that finals. LeBron, that's a L on his record, and he'll always hold that. That was bad. That was a bad showing by LeBron, was going against the Dallas Mavericks and losing. That same Dallas Mavericks team that went through the Lakers, the championship Lakers, blew through them, went through the OKC Thunder, blew through them, and blew through Cleveland. So that ring is pretty fucking heavy, and not just because Dirk Nowitzki beat LeBron, just so you guys know, because he beat Kobe too. But I digress. The rest of the finals, can we talk about them? The 2015-16 finals. Kyrie went down. K Love down. Matthew Dellavedova was his help. Are we not going to talk about that? Does that not matter? Does the context of that not matter? If he has Kyrie and Kevin Love, or Kyrie or Kevin Love, do we think that the Cleveland Cavaliers loses to that Golden State team in 6 games? Do they think they lose in 7, or do we think they win? The reason I'm nitpicking like this is because this matters. If you want to have an actual GOAT debate, you got to bring up these questions. You got to bring up answers for these questions, and you got to tell me why. You can't just let all this shit hang and be like, and that's why this guy's the GOAT, and that's why this guy is not. Let's continue.
And this ball game, ladies and gentlemen, is over, and we congratulate the Detroit Pistons, the NBA champions of the year 1988. The road to redemption has brought the Warriors back home. The Golden State Warriors are the 2017 NBA champions.
The next important variable we're going to talk about in the GOAT debate is playoff competition. Both legends played against some of the best players in NBA history on their way to their postseason success, but whose path was really more challenging? Right here, we have a visual of every All-Star that both LeBron James and Michael Jordan played against in the playoffs. LeBron has played against a total of 83 All-Stars in his total playoff career, compared to 54 on Jordan's end. However, you expect this when you've played 7 more seasons than your competitor. When taking the average number of...
Okay. You expect this when you play 7 more seasons than your competitor. Okay. All right. All right. Let me see. Let's look at this. I have a question for you. Out of all of these All-Stars, how many of them do you think is better than the All-Stars on the right? Curious. I'm sorry. Like, I just don't like that that statement was said, because you're already heavily leaning that Jordan had better competition. There's no way in God's green, blue, beautiful earth that you're going to tell me with a straight face that Jordan's competition was tougher than LeBron's. If you want to say Jordan was the GOAT, that's fine. If you want to say Jordan's better than LeBron, that's fine. If you have the opinion that Jordan would score 100 points in this fucking NBA, crazy, whatever, that's fine. One thing I will not let you get away with is telling me with a straight fucking face that you think that Jordan's competition was better than LeBron's.
All-Stars per series, LeBron James would still come out on top, playing against an average of 1.54 All-Stars per series, compared to 1.46 from Michael Jordan. But I think a better way to look at playoff competition, instead of just purely looking at it through All-Stars, is to look at it through the records of teams they faced. Let's go through this round by round, starting with the first round. LeBron James has an incredible resume of the first round, only suffering his first loss there in 2021, his 18th season. Michael Jordan is the opposite, however, taking his only first-round exits early in his career to the juggernauts of the 80s, like the Bucks with Terry Cummings and Sidney Moncrief, and the Celtics with Bird, McHale, and Parrish. Comparing these first-round resumes, both players struggled to beat elite teams they faced against. Of teams with more than 55 wins in the first round, Jordan has 1 win, LeBron has 0. Of teams with a winning record in the first round, Jordan has 6 wins compared to LeBron's 8. In total, Michael Jordan played on average harder first round competition, 48.2 to 4.
What are we doing? Ooh, I would stand up, but I can't. I don't have enough room. This is your way to seek if a competition is better is to turn around and say how many games were won? Are we fucking joking right now? Are we fucking joking? I got a question for you. Was it 2014? The Atlanta Hawks won 60 fucking games. I got a question for you. Did anyone think that the Atlanta Hawks were going to beat Cleveland? No, absolutely not. If I'm not mistaken, they got their ass kicked by Cleveland, right? Yep, they got swept. Yep, they got swept. They were a great team. They were a very good team, and they won 60 games, but they got fucking swept. And again, notice he said in the first round of the playoffs. This is so nasty. Like, this is gross. He said in the first round of the playoffs. Why? Because LeBron's competition, a lot of the times, he would face teams like this either in the conference finals, the semifinals, or the conference finals. This is so this is so cherry picky because again, so LeBron's competition has to be better. No, 60 games, and he blew them out 4-0. This is so dumb. But I'm not saying that the Atlanta Hawks were better competition than. I don't even. I don't want to speak too much out of turn. This Atlanta Hawks team was good. I'm not going to sit here and shit talk them. But I'd really have to sit here and think, were they better than Charles Barkley's Suns? I don't know. I don't know. I could be convinced either way, though. I don't know. But one thing I can say is, even though the Atlanta Hawks won 60 games, even though the Atlanta Hawks were number one, were they number one in the league in far as game one? There was either them. No, no, yeah, it was them. Golden State Warriors, they were two. They were going back and forth as far as games won. But curious question. Why is it that Cleveland was favorited? Just because your team wins a bunch of games doesn't just automatically think that your team is better. That's just not how that works. That's not how that works. But right now, right, we look at the Western Conference. It's the Eastern Conference is pretty solid. I mean, you have people that think the Celtics are better than the Cavaliers. You have the Celtics are favorited, no, to win the championship this year. I mean, not speak on my ass. NBA champions favorite. The Celtics are the favorites to win the championship this year. Why? They're second, though. Cleveland's first. They're second. So why is Cleveland not the favorite to win the championship? Why is Cleveland behind the Thunder to win the championship? It's also, do we think that the Rockets and the Grizzlies are better than the Nuggets? I just I'm not trying to just shit on this video because it is a very well made video and it seems like he took a lot of time to sit here and make this shit. I respect it. I really do. But one thing that frustrates me is again, we're lacking the fuck out of context here. Okay? Just because a team has won more games does not automatically mean that team is better. What did that team consist of? The players that they consist of, right? The playmakers, the coach, all right? Points per game, defensive rating, all this shit that you were literally talking about earlier. Why are we throwing that shit out the window and saying, now let's talk about how many games the team won? And not even on all the rounds. The first one? The first round? When LeBron, for most of his career, was 1 through 4 seeds. So of course he's probably going to have more games.
44.2. MJ also beat harder teams on average in the first round, 44.2 to 42.
Again, I don't like that you're saying this. You're saying he beat harder teams. That is your opinion. You don't know if he beat harder teams. He just beat teams that had better records. In your analysis, that is so disingenuous, dog.
2.4. Next, let's take a look at the conference semifinals round. Michael Jordan has an 8-2 record here, while LeBron has a 12-3 record here. So both are identical at 80%. Something that immediately jumps out to me is the fact that MJ never had to face a team as good as the Big Three Celtics in 08 or the Ben Wallace Pistons in 06. Both teams with over 64 wins. The toughest team that MJ had to face in the second round was the Orlando Magic in 1995. Some of LeBron's most notable semifinal victories are the Raptors in 2018, shout out LeBronto, the 2011 Celtics, and the 2012 Pacers. Some of MJ's best wins in the second round are against the Steve Smith, Mookie Blaylock, and Dikembe Mutombo Hawks in 97, the Mark Price and Brad Daugherty Cavs in 1993, and the Charles Barkley 76ers in 1990. To conclude this round, Michael Jordan once again comes out on top with an average of 51.9 compared to LeBron's 51.2. When we look at teams beaten, Jordan also comes out on top 51.0 to 48.9. Okay, moving on to the conference finals. MJ has a record of 6-2 here, while LeBron beats him at a record of 10-2. Both players have a really similar resume here. Both MJ and LeBron beat 3 teams that were over the 60-win threshold. LeBron beating the 2012 Celtics, 2011 Bulls, and 2016 Hawks. Jordan beating the 97 Heat, 93 Knicks, and 96 Magic. Something else to note here is that Jordan didn't beat the best team he played against in the conference finals, that being the 89 Pistons. As a matter of fact, it took Jordan until the Pistons were only a 50-win team for the Bulls to beat them. LeBron beat the best 3 teams in his conference finals career. To conclude, Michael Jordan once again takes the cake for a more difficult...
Okay, I wanted to let it play off before I even blasted on this. Notice he said in every single round, LeBron takes the edge as far as what LeBron takes the edge here as far as LeBron takes the edge here as far as wins. So in conclusion, Jordan has faced tougher competition. Por qué? Por qué? Por qué? Por qué? Like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what else I can say. I went on a whole ramble about this already. I rant a lot. I don't want to sit here and make you guys listen to me rant about this again. Just because your team won more games doesn't mean your team is automatically better. If that was the case, the Warriors should have won the finals. They should have won. They lost. Why? Because the better team won. That was LeBron, Kyrie. And then that same team that was great went and added Kevin Durant. Like, it's just I'm just frustrated because it seemed like this video was going to be packed full of context. And I was excited because I do like having this debate. I do. But I've just been crashing out because it's just been frustrating. It hasn't really been a debate. It's been mostly here's like a bunch of numbers that lean towards my direction as far as my bias towards Jordan. I'm going to make it fit. Even though LeBron, like you just said, edges him out here, I'm gonna make the numbers better to where, oh, actually, it depends on how many wins and how many team wins, and therefore Jordan has faced tougher competition. It's
Average competition at 58.5 compared to LeBron's 55.8. Air Jordan also has a higher average for teams beaten, 57.7 to 55.8. Now, on to everyone's favorite round, the NBA Finals. First off, the obvious. Michael Jordan has a finals record of 6-0 compared to LeBron's 4-6 record. Something that instantly jumps out at me is that Jordan has never beaten a team quite like the 2016 Warriors. However, MJ wasn't playing against slouches in the NBA Finals.
okay. MJ wasn't playing against slouches in the NBA Finals. Can we talk about the teams that he faced? What were these rosters? Can you tell me about the Charles Barkley Suns? Besides Charles Barkley, who else was on there? The Utah Jazz, they had Karl Malone, and they had John Stockton. John Stockton was a dog, and so was Karl Malone. John Stockton wasn't that high of a scorer Karl Malone was, but he was definitely an assist maker. Okay, let's talk about the Lakers. I know you're going to talk about Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson back in 91, though, and also the Trailblazers. Who the fuck was on the Trailblazers? Who was the starting five for the Trailblazers? Seattle Supersonics, who was the starting five for them? If we took these teams and put them against each other, this is the conversation I want to have. You want to talk about competition? Let's talk about competition. Okay, the 2016 Warriors, you took their starting lineup, you took the Seattle Supersonics starting lineup. Who's better? The 2017 Warriors, you took their starting lineup, you took the Utah Jazz starting lineup. Who's better? 2015, 2014 Spurs, 2018 Warriors, 2013 Spurs, the 2012 Thunder, okay? This is the Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Thunder, the Mavericks. That this was a Cinderella run season right here. This was a great team. End of the day, would you put them against that? I think this would be a good conversation, right? But again, I don't feel like he's gonna do that. That's what should be talked about, not the fucking wins. Who gives a fuck about how many wins they have? I want to know exactly who was the starting five, what were their numbers, what were they averaging? What were their defensive ratings? What was their offensive rating at that time? Don't just give me a name, Magic Johnson. Don't just give me a name, John Stockton. Give me actual stats. Give me data to look into. Show me. I know. I argue this shit. I know. That's why I can tell you no. As far as competition goes, the only argument you really have as far as, oh, a team not being better than Jordan's competition is the 2020 Heat and possibly the 2011 Mavericks. The rest of these teams probably smoke every one of these teams on the left. But you got teams that he faced that are considered the best team to ever be assembled, which was the KD Warriors. Like, I'm sorry. It's just frustrating because That's what we should be talking about. Are you going to talk about that? I'm ranting and I'm going off and shit. But you're going to talk about that? How much time is left? There's like 3 minutes left? Okay. Let's see if he actually talks about player to player comparison. Who was on these teams? What were these teams consisted of? Who was the coaches? Defensive rating, offensive rating. Let's go ahead. Let's see if he brings this shit.
TikTok would believe you to think. When looking at teams above 60 wins, Michael Jordan has 4 wins compared to LeBron's lone win against the Warriors in 16, losing in 2015 and 2017, and the 2014 Spurs. To conclude the NBA Finals, Michael Jordan has the higher average competition at 61.1 wins compared to LeBron's 60.
Okay, I crash out. I crash out now. I crash out. I crash. Brother, God Almighty. How much is Jordan paying you, dog? How much is he paying you? How much are you being paid right now? How much are you getting put into your pocket? Is this, how much are these old heads paying you, dog? What? What? There's no way. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. There's no way in hell. There's not a single way in hell. There's not a single way in, like, it's literally cold in hell right now. Like, there's no, are you serious? Are you being serious? You're telling me with a straight face that Jordan's competition was better than LeBron's? That the fucking Seattle Supersonics was better than the KD Warriors? Or the Tim Duncan Dynasty Spurs? Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're telling me right now? Fuck, bro. Oh man, this is so sad. I'm honestly, I'm just bored. Like, I'm crashing out, but I'm bored. Like, I'm being honest with you guys. I'm gonna finish it and I'm gonna give my honest analysis, but I was expecting a lot more. You guys told me this was gonna be great. I'm not hating on you guys that want to be the watch list, by the way, but you guys told me this was gonna be great. I'm fucking bored. I'm bored. I'm bored. But this is fucking ridiculous. Why the fuck do we give a fuck about how many wins they have? Who cares? You know why? Because context fucking matters. I already sat here and ranted about player comparison. Fuck that. Fuck player comparison now. Let's talk about team comparison. What about the teams? Dennis Rodman himself said that the league was filtered and watered down. Dennis Rodman, NBA, watered down. Dennis Rodman, a former NBA player, said that the NBA became filtered and watered down after the league expanded in the 1990s. Rodman believed that the expansion diluted the league's talent and made it less competitive. Like, can we bring up the context of the actual team competition? The competition that these teams were facing? You have a player himself that talked about how it was watered down. This shit was watered down. The competition wasn't as strong. So yeah, the Seattle fucking Supersonics might have 64 wins. Who did they face getting those wins? Versus the Golden State Warriors when they got their 67 or their 58. Like, the level of competition. Are you saying that the Golden State Warriors were facing teams like the Rockets, the Houston Rockets, the James Harden Houston Rockets, or facing the Clippers? Are you gonna tell me that those teams were better than the teams that the Seattle Supersonics were facing? This is what I'm saying. This is devoid of all context. I'm not trying to hate on this person. I'm just saying that this video was suggested to me because I was told that there was a lot of context put into it. There's a lot of stats and numbers put into it. And I'm not hating on people who suggested this to me again. I understand why you would think there's context here. I'm not calling you stupid or nothing like that. I'm just saying that there's a difference between saying a bunch of numbers and actually having context behind it. There's no context here. There's no context here. All right? This is clear bias to one side, point blank, period. Because in the beginning, he talked about an edge that LeBron may have held over Jordan, but said, well, we got to look at the fact that, scoring is different. And as far as defense and spacing and that shit is different. And Jordan was in the dead ball era and shit like that. But then we get to here. After he seemed to have a lot of context as far as like James being better and edging Jordan in an area. We get to this area where Jordan edges LeBron. There's no context. We don't talk about level of competition that these teams face. We don't talk about the fact that there wasn't expansion. We don't talk about the fact that wins don't really fucking matter. We don't even talk about the teams that are consisted of like what are these starting lineups. This is boring. This is boring. I'm actually sad. I'm sad because I thought this was actually going to be like full of context. We're 30 minutes in. I'm actually disappointed. But
When
he
looking
can
at
bring it
teams
back.
beaten, LeBron's number goes down to 59.7, but still not high enough to beat MJ's 61.1. Once again, going over the stats for each round, Michael Jordan has a higher average opponent win mark for the first round, second round, conference finals, and NBA finals, as well as the higher average for teams beaten. While LeBron James has some objectively tougher outlier series, especially in the NBA finals, going up against the Warriors, who had 67 wins or more for 3 straight seasons, I think many of LeBron's toughest battles seem to hide many of the easier playoff series that he kind of breezed through. For every '08 Celtics and '06 Pistons LeBron had to go up against in the second round, he also played against his fair share of teams like the 41-41 Nets in 2007 with Vince Carter, or the 2014 Nets led by a fossilized Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. For every 2012 Celtics and 2011 Bulls LeBron managed to overcome in the conference finals, he also skated by teams like the 2013 Pacers with 49 wins led by a 22-year-old Paul George, or the 2020 Denver Nuggets with a very underdeveloped Murray and Jokic duo. For every Golden State Warrior team you had to fight toe-to-toe with, you also got to play against teams like the 2020 Heat and the 2011 Old Man Mavericks, which you didn't even beat, by the way. I think Michael Jordan's playoff
Brother, my lovely brother, question for you. What the fuck? Like, quite literally, what the fuck? Because I don't understand. First of all, that 2011 team also beat Kobe. That 2011 team also beat the that 2011 team went on a little bit of a tear. So let's not act like that 2011 old man team was just nobodies. Okay, they did pretty good. Nonetheless, nonetheless, you bring up the fact that wins matter. That 2011 team won 57 games. I thought wins matter, and not just that. He sat here and brought up teams that LeBron had to face, different teams that weren't that good. Brought up some lineups. Are you going to do that for Jordan? I paused early. So you might say, yeah, and Jordan had to face these teams with these different lineups, you know? So Jordan had his fair share of easy wins as well. He's probably going to do that. He's probably going to do that. He's going to do that. I trust it.
Well, it isn't as flashy as saying, I got to beat the 73-9 Warriors. MJ had a lot less outliers he had to play against, both in a good way and a bad way, especially later in the playoff rounds. Teams like the Utah Jazz of the late 90s, the Suns in 93, and the Supersonics in 96 aren't quite on the same level as the Splash Brother Warriors, but they were really good teams that probably would have won the championship most years if it weren't for MJ.
We don't talk about it. We don't even talk about it. We don't talk about the teams that Jordan may have faced that weren't as good or the lineups that he went up against. We don't even talk about the lineups because we talked about the 2011 Mavericks, the old man team, but we don't talk about the team that, you talk about the old man team. What about the old man Magic on the Lakers? That's okay, though. We don't talk about that. That's fine.
Now, you can't talk about who MJ and LeBron beat in the playoffs without talking about who they had by their sides in those matchups. At the end of the day, basketball is a team sport. No one single man has won a championship before. First, let's take a look at the All-Star teammates that LeBron and Jordan had. MJ had Scottie Pippen for 6 years, being an All-Star, that being 1990, 92, 93, 95, 96, and 97. LeBron had 16 total All-Star teammates throughout his career.
Are you really going to bring up Mo Williams? Okay. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm gonna finish this video for the love of you guys and for the love of the content. But I am genuinely like, I'm just pissed. I'm just pissed because this is just every conversation I've ever had online. Like, this wasn't fun. This isn't a conversation. Like, all-star teammates. Okay, tell me their teammates. Tell me their teammates, fucker. Don't tell me all-star teammates. Tell me their lineups. What was LeBron's lineup in 2009? Tell me that lineup. What was LeBron's lineup in 2018? Tell me that lineup. Tell me Jordan's lineup for these years. Don't just give me all-star teammates. Because we want to talk about that. We can talk about the fact that when Jordan left, who got all-star votes? Pippen and Grant. Horace Grant got all-star votes. And I'm not mistaken. Let me not speak on my ass. Give me a minute. Yeah. And BJ Armstrong. And BJ Armstrong. Well, but that doesn't matter. BJ Armstrong, Horace Grant, Jordan left, came back. But we're not going to talk about that. This is just frustrating again. I don't want to sound like a broken record. It's devoid of context. There's no context.
Williams in 2009, Wade and Bosch with the Heat, Kyrie and Kevin Love with the Cavs, and Anthony Davis in 3 seasons, probably going to be 4 after this February. MJ on average played with 0.4 All-Stars per season, while LeBron played with 0.76 All-Stars on average. Taking it a step further and looking at All-NBA teammates, both players have had 6 teammates that have been on an All-NBA team. MJ once again having Scottie Pippen for 6 years, LeBron having D. Wade for 3 years, Kyrie in 2015, and Anthony Davis for 2 years. MJ on average played with 0.
Correcting myself. Horace Grant ended up going to the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic ended up beating the Chicago Bulls after Jordan came back and retired from retirement. Just want to throw that out there. BJ Armstrong did get all-star votes as the Chicago Bull, though, and they did end up winning 50-plus games and going to the semifinals to end up losing to the Knicks in 7 games, who went up to the finals. So, yeah, I just want to make sure I correct myself. Want to make sure at least I'm stated on business here, because this shit ain't. Sorry. I'm not even trying to be, like, I'm just being straight on it. This shit ain't. But let's keep going.
0.4 All-NBA teammates, while LeBron James has played with 0.25 All-NBA teammates. Something else that many people don't factor into the health equation is coaching, which MJ would easily have better throughout his career. Jordan has had the greatest coach of all time, being Phil Jackson, from 1990 until 1998. LeBron James has went through 10 different head coaches throughout his career. Part of this due to his longevity, but mostly because LeBron has never had a stable and reliable coach how MJ had Jackson. While LeBron had Eric Spoelstra and Ty Lue, the other 8 coaches weren't the greatest. Now this, for most people,
That was the most genuine statement I've heard in the last, 25 minutes.
is about how far they get into the help side of the GOAT debate, if they're lucky. But I think this discussion goes a bit deeper. Right here, we have a graph that shows the amount of team wins that MJ and LeBron accumulated throughout their careers. As we can see, both players started off with terrible teams, but eventually worked their way up to championship contenders. The only real difference comes around season 9 or so, where MJ's Bulls got better, while the best teams LeBron was a part of were back in Miami. And obviously, LeBron has maintained his longevity of playing with above average teams. Now, team wins are great to look at, but they don't quite show us how much Jordan and LeBron actually did for those teams. Luckily for us,
Oh, are you sure about that? Because you sure as hell used it over here to determine some shit. Now all of a sudden team wins aren't everything. Crazy how you can have 2 contradictory statements right across from each other.
we can use the stat win shares that we looked at earlier in this video to help us with that. For a reminder, win shares shows us approximately how much wins a player is responsible for of a team's given win count. So for example, Michael Jordan was responsible for 20.4 wins of the 1996 Bulls' total 72 wins that season. Just like the team wins graph, the win shares chart shows LeBron James and Jordan with very similar trajectories, both players taking no time to start impacting their teams in a big way, while peaking out at around 20 to 21 win shares. However, I think MJ extended his peak of win shares a bit further than LeBron did. For context, a solid role player will give you about 5 win shares, and your typical superstar will give you around 10 win shares. What LeBron and Jordan were doing in their primes was unheard of. Now, win shares are nice, but they have the exact opposite issue with just looking at team wins. Win shares don't show us how good the teams were around the stars. If we subtract the win shares of LeBron and Mike from their team's total win count of a given season, it looks like this. This graph shows a few things. First off, that both Jordan and LeBron's teams early in their careers were complete dog shit, except Jordan's were probably a little worse. Both players had dips and peaks around season 6 to season 9, where their team started to become serious contenders. Right here, 2014 for LeBron and 1995 for MJ represents a shift, because MJ played with his best help of his career during his second three-peat with a prime Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc, and more, while LeBron's best help of his career was with Miami. Ever since the days of the Heat, LeBron's wins without him stayed around the high 30s and low 40s with a few occasional dips. The last metric we're going to look at for help is individual contributions, which is done by dividing win shares from team wins. This gives us a percentage of how much LeBron and Jordan were contributing to their team. For context, a solid role player would contribute around 12% of their team's efforts, while a superstar would contribute around 20%. This graph shows us just how much both LeBron and MJ were truly doing for their teams, especially MJ in the late 80s and LeBron right here in 2013. We can see that MJ was doing more to help the Bulls win in their first repeat than in their second repeat. LeBron James, outside of his monster 2013 season, has remained in the high 20%, low 30% range for contributions. Getting a final recap of all of this information we just went over, MJ has been on better teams throughout his career at an average of 51 wins compared to LeBron's 49. However, Michael Jordan has also contributed more to those teams on average than LeBron did, 14.2 to 12.5. Hypothetically taking away Jordan and LeBron from their teams, LeBron's teams on average suffer more than Jordan's teams, 36.8 to 37 wins. But like we discussed, Jordan contributes more to his teams, 26.9% to 25% from LeBron. So in conclusion, I think LeBron has played with more offensive firepower around him and more stars than MJ. While MJ has had his first man Scottie Pippen with him for the majority of his career, a luxury that LeBron never had. MJ was lucky enough to have the greatest coach of all time in Phil Jackson with him in the Bulls, while they were title contenders, while LeBron has bounced around with a bunch of different coaches. MJ's teams suffered less without his presence, but MJ had a bigger impact on his teams throughout his career. I think both legends had a very similar level of help throughout their career. However, I would argue that LeBron had a touch bit less help, but Michael Jordan had a bigger impact to his teams than LeBron did.
Even when an edge is like in LeBron's favor, it has to be with a caveat. When it's in Jordan's favor, no caveat, just straight up facts. But LeBron's favor, there has to be a small caveat though. It's just
James drives, James not finished. Or even if you don't get along, there comes a point where you've got to stop sugarcoating and telling the truth. There he gets it back and a foul from behind. And we got two here in the fourth. This veteran Mavericks team always confident they can come back. Terry shot rolls. Celebration will begin. The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. The first title in franchise history.
It's moments like these that defines a player. LeBron's 2011 choke job might be one of the darkest blemishes on his basketball career. But Eddie, other NBA legends had bad playoff series before. LeBron isn't the only one. Well, you'd actually be right. Steph Curry had the 2016 finals. Kobe Bryant had the 2004 finals. Tragic Johnson completely gave away the 1984 NBA finals. James Harden was a couple less bricked threes away from taking down the 2018 Warriors. Dirk Nowitzki and the 1-seeded Mavericks lost to the 8-seeded Warriors in the first round in 2007. Michael Jordan had... Wait, when was Michael Jordan's worst playoff series? Come to think about it, does MJ even have a signature choke?
I'm gonna kill myself. Holy shit. How about when Jordan went 3 for 18 against the New York Knicks and it took Scottie Pippen to play Superman in order for them to even overcome back in Chicago? They would have went down 3-0. Jordan, 3 for 18 against the Knicks. No. Michael Jordan, 3 for 18, 16% from the field. 1993 playoffs. Now show me Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen, 29 points, 10 for 12, 83% from the field, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block. If it wasn't for Scottie Pippen, they end up going down 0-3 to the Knicks in the playoffs. But they don't. They bounce back, and Jordan did bounce back and play better. But to act like Jordan did not have a bad game or even a bad playoff series, how about the fact where he was averaging 30 points per game and then he turned around and averaged 22 when going against the Detroit Pistons? The Piston series, we're not going to sit there and count that? Or is it because of the Jordan rules? So that's why we're not counting that? And I'm not saying the Jordan rules didn't exist. I'm just saying if you're an amazing player, you should be able to overcome it. No? That's what we say about LeBron.
Job like the rest of these legends. I think something in the GOAT debate that Jordan doesn't get enough credit for is how he doesn't have any notable letdowns individually in the...
That is just not true. I just showed you guys 3 for 18. He went 18% from the field. And then again, against the Detroit Pistons, he lost against them. Niggas want to act like Jordan only played 6 fucking seasons. He played 15. He has letdowns. He's lost. And individually, he's played bad against the Pistons.
Postseason. Of course, the Bulls did a lot of losing in the 80s playoffs, but MJ was doing all that he possibly could out there. Right here, this chart shows us every NBA legend's worst playoff series, according to the stat game score, which quantifies how good a player's single game performance was. To give you guys some context about how good or bad a certain game score is, anything from 0 to 10 is relatively... According to the stat game score, which quantifies...
MJ never choked. Okay. Now I'm gonna get angry. Hold on. My computer's loading slow as shit. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I will gladly say so. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure he did not play good against the Detroit Pistons. I mean, the Jordan rules were put in place to literally stop him from scoring. They ended up losing. But can I like see? Okay. Jordan played well. 18 points, 27 points, 23 points, 25 points, 24 points, 22 points. Shooting from the field. He shot 33%, 31%, 57%, 48%, another 32%. So, okay, I'm wrong. Jordan has never had an absolutely atrocious season. He's had a bad postseason, a bad playoff series. He's had a bad playoff series, but he's never had an absolutely atrocious one. Okay.
How good a player's
I'll
single game
admit that.
performance was. To give you guys some
I was
context about
wrong.
how good or bad a
I
certain
could
game
have
score is, anything
sworn
from 0
he
to
played
10 is
like
relatively
shit
bad, a
against the
very
Pistons.
insignificant contributor to the team. Anything
Let me not talk over his video. I could have sworn he played like shit against the Pistons. I can be honest with my word. He didn't play like shit against the Pistons. He had bad games against the Pistons. That's the ones I'm memorizing. But he didn't have an entirety of a bad series against the Pistons. And even though he lost against the Pistons, he still played well throughout the series. He just had a few games that were shit. I can turn around and say those games probably cost him the series, but I'm not going to sit here and try to reach. Like I feel like some of the points in this video has done, but I digress. I'm not going to try to reach to try to prove my point. If I look into this more, maybe I can find the fact that Jordan did cost his team with those games that he didn't play as well. Maybe. But I'm not going to sit here and act like that's just a fact. He said playoff series. Now, if he said playoff games, I'd be pissed. But he said entirety of a series. Again, I feel like this is a little bit of the cherry picking that I was talking about. Entirety of a series against a team. True. But again, playoff games matter. Like you can play amazing games, but if you end up dropping 2 or 3 games like Jordan did against the Pistons that were really bad, that will cost you the series. But I digress. We'll continue.
from 10 to 15 is
I'm
an
sorry
average
if I seem
performance from an average
I'm
NBA
just
player. 15 to 20 is above average, either a really good game from a role player or a slightly below average game from a star. 20 to 25 is about the average night from a star player, a very good performance. 25 to 30 is an elite performance from a superstar player. Anything above 30 would be an incredible game, and games ranging in the high 30s and above are historic single game performances, but in our case, we're going to use it for series average. One major rule of this chart is that your team has to lose the playoff series to be eligible. Starting from oldest to youngest, Tragic Johnson and the 1984 NBA Finals is a series that many want to forget about, making several crucial blunders in crunch time. His arch rival Larry Bird, his worst playoff series was in the 1988 Eastern Conference Finals against the Pistons. While he was partially injured this series, the guy just looked like a shell of himself. Pistons Isaiah Thomas's worst playoff series was against the Bulls in 1991, getting swept and pretty much ending the bad boy Pistons dynasty. Hakeem's worst series was in 1996 against the Supersonics. Olajuwon, after coming off back-to-back underdog championships, was expected to do the same in 96, but they couldn't defeat Seattle. Kobe's worst playoff run was the 2004 NBA Finals, when Kobe was expected to lead the Lakers with Shaq getting old, but he did quite the opposite and shot the Lakers out of the series. His former teammate Shaquille O'Neal, his worst playoff series was the 2006 NBA Finals. While the Heat won the series, Shaq was terrible, playing like a shell of himself and getting benched during crunch time because he couldn't hit a free throw. Dirk Nowitzki's worst playoff series, like we talked about before, was losing to the 8-seeded Warriors in 2007. Dwayne Wade's in a very similar situation to Dirk. In 2006, he made an incredible finals run, only to lose in the first round the following year. Tim Duncan's worst playoff performance was against the 6-seeded Mavericks in the first round, where Duncan and the 3-seeded Spurs lost 3-1. LeBron James' worst playoff round was without a shadow of a doubt the 2011 Finals. Don't even need to explain that one. His arch nemesis, Steph Curry, without a doubt his worst playoff series is the 2016 NBA Finals. 3-1, that's all I gotta say. Giannis' worst playoff series was the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals, where Kawhi and the Raptors pretty much put Giannis in jail. Speaking of Kawhi, the Claw's worst series was the 3-1 lead they choked against Denver in the bubble, where Kawhi shot an abysmal 6 for 22 in Game 7 of the series. Jokic's worst outing was against the Lakers in the NBA bubble during the conference finals. Jokic just completely looked outmatched by an old Dwight Howard. Kevin Durant's worst playoff series was where he got swept by Boston in 2022 in the first round. Finally, Jason Tatum's worst series was by far the 2022 NBA Finals, where he completely fell apart against the more experienced Golden State Warriors. So where's Michael Jordan at then? Well, if we plot his 7 playoff series losses, it looks like this. To make the take that Michael Jordan hasn't had a bad playoff series ever in his career, isn't that ridiculous? Well, what about 1995 against the Magic? Yeah, where he averaged 31, 6, 3 on near 48% shooting. Well, what about his losses against the Pistons though? In 1988 against the Pistons, Jordan averaged 27, 9, and 4 on 49% shooting, and in 1989 he averaged 29, 5, and 6 on 46%.
Okay, but again, what about the games that he fucked up in? He had, I just read it to you guys, we just went over it. He had 40-point games in these series, multiple. He had like 2 40-point games, but he also had 20-point games. No shit, the average is going to be around 30. So why don't we talk about the fact that there were games where he played bad? And again, 46% from field goal range? I'm sorry. That's good? 46% from field goal range? You're considering that to be good or great? Again, I'm not saying Jordan is bad or Jordan even played terrible in these series. What I am saying is you're saying he's never played a bad series at all. I'm saying that he definitely didn't play a great one, so there's an impasse here, and one of us needs to move.
Shooting. What other series do you want me to bring up? His rookie year against the Bucks, 29, 6, and 8 on 43% shooting.
43, yeah.
Getting back to the GOAT debate, no one really.
Yeah, 43% from the field. That's not good, buddy. That's not good. That's bad. That is quite literally bad. I'm curious. Give me a second. Yeah, LeBron shot better in what you said was his worst series, and we all agree that Dallas series was bad. He shot better from the field than Jordan did. In his Detroit series, he shot better from the field in Jordan's Detroit series. Just so you guys know, this guy said that Jordan has never had a bad series whatsoever. LeBron shot 47.8% from the field. We all agreed that 2011 series was bad, was terrible. Jordan shot 47.7% from the field, and he's saying that was not a bad postseason series. He also shot 43% from the field. He didn't say that was a bad series. Jordan never had a bad series. What do you consider a bad series? Just because a bunch of shots were put up does not equal great. If a player gives me 40 points, okay, but he shot 30% to do it, am I going to be happy with the 40 points? We probably fucking lost. You do understand that efficiency fucking matters. The more you miss, the more opportunities the other team has to win. And the more you miss, the less opportunities your team has to put it in a bucket themselves instead of you. So it's just never had a bad series. Never had a bad series. But also, guys, he shot worse from the field than LeBron did in his atrocious series.
Expected LeBron to win the 2007 Finals. Well, he really didn't play that well. Everyone gave him a pass. He was young, the team around him wasn't great. They were playing against a way more experienced team in the San Antonio Spurs. They weren't even supposed to be there. This was a learning experience for the chosen one. This massacre is inexcusable. LeBron, with arguably the best roster of his career, played against his worst Finals opponent outside of the Jimmy Butler Heat in 2020. This was supposed to be ring number 1. Referring back to that game score stat, because my curiosity struck me, I did the extremely daunting and mind-numbing task of tracking every single Michael Jordan and LeBron James playoff series in both of their careers, and the results might shock you. Taking a look at this graph, the x-axis represents which season the legend is in the y-axis represents the game score the legend had in that series. LeBron is in blue and Jordan is in red. Now, there's a lot of dots on here. No shit. Taking this one step at a time, first, taking a look at the first round performances, Michael Jordan played 13 first rounds compared to LeBron's 17. MJ's best first round series was against the Heat in 1992, while LeBron's best first round was against the Pistons in 09. MJ has an average first round score of 28.1, while LeBron had an average first round score of 23.99. Moving on to the second round, Michael Jordan has played 10 second round playoff series, while LeBron has played 15. MJ's best second round series was against the 76ers in 1990, where he was absolutely frying Chuck in the 76ers, while LeBron's best was against the Raptors in 2018. Shout out LeBronto. Michael Jordan's average second round score beats LeBron's score 24.63 to 22.95. In the conference finals, MJ has played there 8 times, while LeBron has played there 12 times. MJ's best performance there was against the Pistons in 1991, while LeBron's best performance was against the Magic in 09. This time, LeBron is the higher average conference final score at 24.26 compared to MJ's 23.08. Moving on to everyone's favorite, the NBA Finals. MJ, of course, has played there 6 times compared to LeBron's 10 appearances. MJ's best finals appearance being the series against the Suns in 1993, while LeBron's best finals appearance was against the Warriors in 2017. A very underrated performance from the King. However, it's Michael Jordan that has the highest NBA Finals average performance at 24.68 compared to LeBron's 22.94. When we take a look at everything combined, every playoff series from the two legends, MJ's best playoff series was against the Heat in 1992 in the first round, while LeBron's best series was against the Raptors in 2018 in the second round. Michael Jordan, on average, has played better in the postseason than LeBron, 25.53 to 23.57. So to conclude this section, Michael Jordan has never actually choked a playoff series, according to the standards of other NBA legends. While you can't say the same,
I don't even know if that's true. I don't even know if that's true. I don't even know if that's true. I'm gonna be. I'm gonna. I'm gonna keep it a bean with you guys. I don't know as far as like the bias of this video. I know I've been crashing out a lot, but I truly don't get how. I love you guys. I do. I just don't get how we can look at this and say, "Oh, absolutely, this was a great video." I'm not trying to hate on the guy. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. We all have our biases. But this guy is saying that Jordan has never had a bad playoff series. When we all sat together as a group, as a family, we saw he put the numbers up on the screen. I didn't even have to do so. I pulled up numbers myself. I admitted that I don't think Jordan played an absolutely atrocious series. That's what he was making it sound like. An atrocious series has to be absolutely terrible. I admitted, okay, it wasn't absolutely terrible. It was all right. They lost, and they lost because of him, because he was not shooting efficiently from the field. But then it was switched. I thought it was absolutely the worst series ever, and it switched to, well, Jordan never had a bad series. Okay, yes, he has. He quite literally has because they lost. He quite literally has because he shot bad from the field. 43% from the field, 47% from the field. He shot worse from the field in his series that he lost than LeBron shot from the field in his series that he lost. You put the numbers up. You showed this. So it's just kind of frustrating because I feel like bias is leading a lot in this video, and context is not really being broken down. But
about LeBron. Michael Jordan has also outplayed LeBron in the first round, second round, and NBA Finals on average, while only paling to LeBron in the conference finals.
oh, here we go. Here we go.
Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up. It's good at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. 3 seconds to go. Throws up the floater. Good night, Cleveland. That is for you.
Something that gets brought up a lot in the GOAT debate is clutch shooting. Who is the best when it really counted? Many Jordan fans love to say that LeBron James didn't have that killer instinct, but how true is this really? LeBron James has the NBA record for the most amount of NBA game winners in the playoffs at 7. MJ only has 3. Michael Jordan has shot 7 of 15 on tying or go-ahead baskets in the final 24 seconds in the playoffs. LeBron has shot 19 of 41 in the same circumstances. Michael Jordan has a field goal percentage of 45.2% in the playoffs within 5 minutes and within 5 points, with 671 total points in this circumstance. LeBron in the same situation has shot 46.8% while scoring 1,130 points. LeBron James has 5 playoff buzzer beaters on 50% shooting compared to Jordan's 3 buzzer beaters on 43% shooting. Now, all these clutch scoring numbers are great, but there's one really big issue about clutch stats. Many of the clutch shooting stats we use today started from the use of player shot tracking, which began in the 1996 and 97 season, which is Jordan's second last year with the Bulls. It's kind of tough to find real and concrete clutch scoring data outside of the basic stuff I just showed you. Both players in the data I showed you are roughly the same, probably even a slight edge to LeBron, but I think the clutch debate is a lot more subjective than most people admit it to be. LeBron and Jordan represent the 2 different types of archetypes in the clutch. The Jordan archetype archetype is the type of leader that you know is going to take that last shot. Doesn't matter if he's double or even triple teamed. He's willing to live with the result of his shot as long as he takes it. The LeBron archetype is the type of team leader that's going to make the best play for his team down the stretch. Sometimes that's forcing the issue on offense. Other times that's finding his open teammates and trusting them in the clutch. LeBron has gotten a lot of criticism throughout his career for not taking the last shot and instead trusting his teammates, who have let him down a lot. He's gotten a lot of criticism for not fitting into that traditional Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Kobe Bryant type of mold in the clutch. Saying that either of these two players aren't clutch is just flat out ignorant. In my opinion, the whole clutch debate really depends on what you want your team leader to do in crunch time. Go out and hunt the shot for himself every time and live with the result of taking and missing bad shots, but at least you had the balls to take it. Or go out and hunt the best shot for your team, but live with the results of your teammates missing some open shots while you take the blame for not having the killer instinct. That's just my take on the whole clutch debate, and I think it's a lot more subjective than most make it out to be. But let me know in the comments if you disagree.
If the clutch debate is completely subjective, which I'm not even saying I disagree with, why is it even brought into this video? And the reason I say why it's even brought into this video is because you could have cut that out completely and used the time that you spent on the clutch debate to really break down the context of the other sections that you have here that you didn't really do.
The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship, and it's their second three-peat. It's over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland, this is for you.
You know, all of these numbers, stats, and data about a player will look diluted through the lens of future NBA perspectives, but something that always sticks with a player is the legacy they left behind. You hear the word legacy thrown out a lot there in the sports world. I would define legacy in basketball as the long-term impact and reputation a player has, encompassing their awards and achievements. To be clear, legacy does not include off-court influence. Michael Jordan was the main pioneer for the globalization and the overall expansion and growth of the NBA over the last 30 to 40 years. LeBron James is the main pioneer for the player empowerment era that the NBA has went through in the last 20 years. These impacts are not included in this video's version of legacy. While both LeBron and Jordan have the undisputed two greatest legacies of all time, they're way different in the way they played out. Michael Jordan's legacy is like a Hollywood movie. The stage was set perfectly for him to first overcome the juggernauts of the late 80s in the Pistons and Celtics. Once those dynasties of the 80s faded with time, Jordan's Bulls peaked right after their decline, leading to Jordan claiming 3 championships. Then he retired for quote-unquote baseball, but really his gambling addiction, and then miraculously came back and won 3 more chips, eventually retiring with the Bulls, and then the Wizards happened. Michael Jordan's charisma, charm, electrifying presence, and larger-than-life persona, or his aura, left fans in awe of what he could do in the basketball court. Couple this with his calculated retirements to avoid negatively affecting his reputation as a global ambassador for the game, and tainting his undefeated NBA Finals record, which, by the way, I don't think MJ was beating the Rockets during his first retirement, or any other team after '98. All of these precise details of his career lead him to having the best legacy of any player. LeBron James is kind of the opposite, though. LeBron, like Mike, started his career unable to overcome the super teams of the 2000s, like the Celtics, Pistons, and Spurs. However, while MJ was lucky enough to have Scottie Pippen and Phil Jackson both land on his team, LeBron didn't have this luxury, forcing him to make a really tough decision that ultimately tainted his legacy. The Cavs never got the help that LeBron needed. LeBron then spent the majority of the 2010s squaring up with some of the greatest dynasties the league has ever produced, leading to a not-so-perfect NBA Finals record, and him falling shadow to the Warriors being the best dynasty of his era, not his own team. Ever since this, LeBron has grown his legacy with the unwavering longevity that he's shown. MJ lived the perfect Hollywood legacy, while LeBron had his obvious flaws spilt all over the canvas.
You know, we do have teammates. You know, Jordan literally punched a dude in the face, right? He punched Steve Kerr in the fucking face. I just want to say perfect Hollywood legacy. He punched Steve Kerr in the face. That was the killer in him. He punched him in the face because he's a fucking killer.
You know, I could have all the data, all the numbers, all the well-thought-out analysis and contextualization of the GOAT debate, and still most young fans would still tell me, we done with the 90s. MJ played against plumbers. The 80s and 90s were trash. And honestly, I would partially agree with them. Players of today's game are objectively more skilled and talented on the basketball court than players of prior generations. This isn't some wild conspiracy theory. It's a pretty well-known fact. Free throw percentage was worse, three-point percentage was worse, turnover percentage was higher, two-point field goal percentage is higher today. Players are just simply more capable today. However, you couldn't do what players are doing today back then. The NBA 50, 40, 20, heck, even just 10 years ago, had a lot more strict ball handling and stepping rules that have been bent and changed in today's era for more entertainment for the casual fan. Don't believe me? Just go look up the NBA rulebook, or just go do a simple Google search of NBA rule changes over the years. Even if Michael Jordan wanted to do a between the legs hezzy fake into a step back, he couldn't do it due to the rules in place. This clip of Danny Ainge and Kevin McHale represents 80s dribbling and the rules pretty well.
Sessions were completed. Some of the most competitive competition began.
Most dribble combos that players use today would be instantly called a travel, carry, double dribble, or all of the above. If players of the past worked on their three-pointers and dribble combos instead of simple layups, mid-range shots, post moves, and overall team basketball, maybe they would develop into the next step.
Maybe. Again, maybe. We don't know that though. We do have the numbers to show that the players from back in the day are not as good as the players now when it comes to field goal percentage. So we can take away the dribble moves if you want to. I feel like that was just kind of thrown in there to try to make a point. Field goal percentage, they were not better. Turnover rate, not better. Like, players are more skilled now than they were back in the day. That's just a fact, and you even agreed to that. But your argument against it is, well, if we have these players now, no, if we had the players back then, the rules they play against now, maybe the players back then would, develop into great players now and actually like smoke people on the court. That's just your feeling. Again, that's just something you feel like could happen, maybe. You have nothing to back it though. The numbers don't even agree with you. You just feel like, well, the rules might have hampered them. Maybe. But again, we don't know that. We don't know if they played against the rule sets of today's game, if they actually would be able to adapt to it. Or would it not matter and actually would hurt them more because they couldn't adapt to it because they just weren't as skilled. This is just conjecture, but nothing to prove it except just emotional bias.
Curry or James Harden. Another question for these young fans. If the 80s and the 90s were trash to you, when did the NBA officially become not trash? When did all the plumbers retire and go home to their wives and kids? Let me guess, 2003, the not trash era? By this logic, if you're putting this era tax on the older generations, LeBron James still wouldn't be the GOAT. Wouldn't the best player in the most advanced era of the game be the best? According to this era tax mindset, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would all be better than LeBron. But LeBron has 4 rings, 4 MVPs, and 4 Finals MVPs. Yeah, but they sucked back then. Joel Anthony was literally a starting center for a championship team. Kendrick Perkins started 65 of 66 regular season games for the Thunder.
I don't want to hear this now. You guys already know what I'm about to say. I really don't want to hear this shit. Now you want to start bringing up players that played during LeBron's time tenure. Now you want to bring up players that played in certain lineups. Now you want to bring up starting lineups. But you didn't want to do that before when we talked about level of competition. You just wanted to talk about wins. But now we want to talk about the actual lineups, the actual players. Now you want to throw names. You didn't want to throw names before, but you want to throw names now. Okay.
2012, the same team that made the NBA Finals that year. None of these
The
bums could even
same
sniff
team that made the NBA Finals. Okay, so they were a great team by the wins. They had a large amount of wins. Why? How the fuck can you have it both ways? I'm sorry. I may have because this guy has 5,000 subscribers. That is a lot, by the way. I'm not saying he's gonna see my video or care about me. I got like 50 subscribers, so doubt he'll fucking care whatever the hell I got to say. But one thing I have a question for is he might have a couple of his fans overlay to mine. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is probably gonna be my most disliked video on my channel. I'm ready for it. I understand that. My question to you guys who are fans of his channel, who are probably gonna hate bomb the fuck out of this video, why is it that it did not matter when we were talking about playoff content, like playoff teams and their wins? It did not matter as far as like starting lineups. It didn't matter because they had a bunch of wins under their belt, so it did not matter. They won a bunch of games, therefore they were a great team. Therefore, Jordan faced teams that won more games, so he faced harder competition. But now all of a sudden the names matter. Now the names matter as far as the starting lineups. Why didn't the names matter before? Now the names matter. If you guys can't see how contradicting that is, I don't know what to tell you. Why all of a sudden is he bringing up at the end of this video the starting lineup of the team, of one team, but he's not going to bring it up for Jordan's?
time in 2024. No one could even shoot threes back then. According to this era tax idea, the 2024 Boston Celtics would be the best team in NBA history, followed by the 2023 Nuggets. For all the young fans that don't listen to older fans now, what are you going to do when someone says that Steph Curry was a mediocre three-point shooter and that LeBron played against TikTokers and Twitch streamers? You know with your own 2 eyes that Steph Curry was quite far from an average three-point shooter, and LeBron definitely played against some really good teams and players in the playoffs. But what are you going to tell them when there's a bunch of Wemby?
Now he's just arguing against, okay, he's arguing against children. Though we done with the 90s narrative, I get it. It can be frustrating to listen to. Trust me, I thought it was dumb when it started. But the only reason I feel like it started was because old heads felt like you had old heads saying that LeBron wasn't even top 100, dog. That's what you had. You had old heads saying that LeBron wasn't even top 100. Okay, getting 41,000 likes. I made a video on this. 41,000 like video. of an old head saying that LeBron's not even top 100. So we done with the 90s movement was just kind of a little bit of a pushback revolutionary movement of like, okay, we're really gonna sit here and act like LeBron is garbage. Okay, you guys were garbage. Again, I don't agree with it. I think it was dumb. But you're sitting here, you're boxing shadows. I get that there are young fans that feel this way. But to act like most fans feel this way, I don't know what to tell you. Most fans do not believe that the 80s and 90s are completely trash. You know how I know that? Before you're like, well, actually, there's these TikToks and there's these kids and shit like that. The reason I know that is because you showed yourself that Jordan is still considered the GOAT even today. LeBron has caught up for sure, but Jordan is still considered the GOAT by a decent percentage, a few percentage points, not a lot, but still a few percentage points ahead of LeBron. So clearly, most fans don't feel that the 80s and 90s were trash. So this whole last few minutes of your video attacking them is, to me, kind of useless, but
running around the NBA in 2040. I think it goes both ways. Older fans need to appreciate the greatness they have right in front of them right now and stop pedestalizing the good old days, while younger fans need to appreciate the legends that came before them that paved the NBA into what it is today. The way you compare players of different eras isn't through some era tax system. You have to compare the achievements, awards, legacies of what players did in their era while contextualizing the numbers to go along with it.
Conclusion. Okay.
At this point in the video, if you've actually been watching the whole thing and you didn't just skip through the timestamps, I think you already know my pick for the GOAT debate. Michael Jeffrey Jordan is my NBA GOAT as of the time of this recording. To give you guys this debate in a nutshell, just in case you fell asleep or something, I know this is a pretty long video. Michael Jordan has the better career basic stat averages, he has the better team success with 6 rings, has the better basketball resume.
He has the harder playoff competition. He beat better postseason teams. Like, he has the better legacy. And he has no iconic choke job. Such subjective fucking shit. First of all, beat better postseason teams. Bullshit. You just literally said, hey, these teams won more games, especially in a diluted fucking expansion time in the NBA. But that's fine. Better legacy. That's fucking subjective. You even said it was subjective. Like, what do you mean? And no iconic choke job? Okay, so his choke job wasn't iconic. Doesn't mean he didn't choke. We saw that he didn't play as well. He lost the series for his team. And better playoff performer by game score. Okay.
In terms of accolades, has the higher peak, played against harder playoff competition and beat better teams in the playoffs, contributed more to his team's...
Have better basketball resume? Again, why? Like, you add a deep tweet, oh, why? But again, you didn't bring up the context that LeBron James should have had one. You want to do the shoulda, woulda, coulda when it comes to Jordan possibly being great in this era, when it comes to players possibly being great in this era, when it comes to the past not being as good as the present, you want to do the shoulda, woulda, coulda. But then when I don't even want to, I don't have to do the shoulda, woulda, coulda. LeBron should have won. Here, I guess I am doing should have. LeBron should have won Defensive Player of the Year. That is just unknown. But I can actually point to you facts why I feel that way and why a lot of people actually feel that way. You can't point to any facts showing that the 80s and 90s players would translate great in this current time. The stats you bring up will actually show that they probably wouldn't be. So it's just, this is frustrating.
Statistically played better on average in the playoffs, has the better basketball legacy, and doesn't have a famous choke job that all these other legends have. LeBron James has the worst help, has the better basic stat accumulation, advanced stat accumulation, and longer sustained excellence, or in plain English, longevity. In essence, Michael Jordan was statistically the better basketball player at the peak of his powers than LeBron James was, and pretty much everything I mentioned in this video is proof of that. However, LeBron James is probably the next closest thing in MJ in terms of peak production in NBA history, except LeBron James maintained his game a lot longer than MJ did. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, the GOAT debate does not have an objective answer, as much as I want there to be one. I just did the task of finding every single little detail about this debate under the sun to help you justify your answer in this discussion. Contrary to the thumbnail, I didn't solve shit. The GOAT debate is really about your preference in a basketball player. What do you value more? How good a player was at the peak of their playing days, or how elite their playing days lasted? Me personally, I value the first option, but I'm not completely shut off to people seeing it in the second way. The problem is when people try to bring anyone else into the discussion, because let's just be honest, no one in NBA history is at the level that these two gentlemen are at. But has the door quite shut on LeBron yet? Is there anything in the 2024 and 2025 season and beyond that LeBron James can do to seriously shift the GOAT debate? How his 2016 ring, his 2018 playoff run, his 2020 ring, or his undeniable longevity has been. At this point, sides have long been taken. Chances are you had your pick coming into this video, and you still have the same pick. I think LeBron James is done winning MVPs as long as Jokic, Giannis, Shea, and Luka are still in the league. I don't think LeBron is going to reverse time and put up a record-breaking season in terms of numbers. At this point, LeBron has the longevity argument going for him, and all these extra stats are just a cherry on top of an already great career. However, I think there's one possible scenario that LeBron could do that could cause one last great shift. You know what I'm hinting at. What if LeBron James went on one last deep playoff run and secured ring number 5? This sounds pretty far-fetched, but isn't it really? The Lakers were the 7th seed just 2 years ago and made it to the conference finals. The Mavericks as the 5 seed last year made it to the NBA finals. Same with the 8 seeded Miami Heat in 2023. With Anthony Davis playing some of the best basketball of his career, what if LeBron and the Lakers made one last championship run? With 5 rings, 5 finals MVPs, assuming he'd win it, and the longevity on his side, I think we'd seriously have to reconsider the GOAT debate. Otherwise, I rest my case of Michael Jordan being the GOAT of the NBA.
Okay. I will say, I do want to make this clear. Because, like I said, if I have some of his fans in here that are going to hate bomb the fuck out of me, listen, I don't think this guy's a bad guy. I don't think that he is a bad content creator. I think this was beautifully done. The amount of time this motherfucker probably put into this video, I respect the fuck out of it. I respect him. I just don't respect how it seemed like it was going to be unbiased when it just isn't. It was extremely biased towards one side, and that's okay. But there's a lot of areas that it lacked on, right? It lacked as far as like understanding context. It lacked as far as like breaking down rosters. It lacked as far as like um coming into using a few things that were subjective, but saying actually, so they are subjective, but I'm gonna give it towards Jordan because again, biased towards him. That's all. But this Eddie Buckets guy, he seems dope. He's a good ass creator. I respect him. I'm gonna subscribe to him right now and like his video. I'm gonna do both because at the end of the day, I may not have liked the video. Trust me, you guys saw me crash out a little bit. You saw me go through the fucking stages of grief from fucking anger to sadness, depression, acceptance. But at the end of the day, it still was a decent video. It was very well put together. I just wish it wasn't as biased as it was. Um, I didn't mean to come off disrespectful if I did by saying I was bored. It's just I listened, and obviously you guys saw me. I didn't just sit here. How long have we been here? 2 fucking hours on the dot. Obviously I sat here and I actually talked through the shit. I actually gave my analysis. I didn't just watch the video and pout. But again, the reason I said I was quote unquote bored is just because it just seemed like another super biased video in the favor of Jordan. I just wish that we were able to like actually break it down, like context wise. We look at every nook and cranny. If you're gonna make an hour long video, make it an hour long, make it about like one topic, and just like fucking just go fucking man, just go in. Just dig in there. Just fucking rip the shit apart and really get into the nooks and crannies of it. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. But that's just my opinion. Um, other than that, like I said, beautifully put together video. Seems like he put a lot of effort into his content. I respect the guy. I respect you guys for bringing me this content. If you guys have any other content that you want me to react to, please like, comment, subscribe, put it in the comment section. I'll go ahead and react to it when I can. I'm gonna go ahead and upload this video early. I usually upload around 3 to 5 p.m. But playoffs are tomorrow. Eagles are playing at 2, and the fucking Empire is playing Buffalo at 5. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this around noon Central Time. Um, Other than that, guys, I appreciate you hopping in, even if you were laughing at me raging out, or you were hating on me for raging out. I appreciate it. I appreciate this video. It was a good one. It was fun. It was a long one. This was a long one, but it was a fun one. And I hope all y'all have a great day. Peace out.